Hello and welcome to the Cottage Wildlife Garden. It's late April here in the UK and we've seen a lot of solitary bees flying around. They've been on trees, pollinating the apple trees and the plum trees and the pear trees. So to encourage them, I've always made some nest boxes for them, and some of them are getting a bit tired, so it's now time to renew and expand the solitary bee nest boxes we have, and a bit of an experiment as well to see which they prefer. So come with me and see how I do it.
When we think of bees in the garden, we tend to think of these large, hairy bumblebees crashing around the garden from flower to flower. We also think about honeybees, mostly kept in hives these days, of course. There's one species of honeybee, about 24 species of bumblebees, but incredibly, there are well over 200 species of solitary bees in the UK. Many solitary bees make nests underground. They hatch out in the warm weather, like this ashy mining bee, and then they gather, flying around the treetops, looking for potential mates. Once they mate, they're then ready to lay their eggs and start the process all over again. Some, rather than making holes in the ground, use holes in wood, such as this leafcutter bee. We've had quite a success with leafcutter bees in the past, and they use these sort of log end holes. This one's getting a bit tired now, so it's been well used.
So this is the first design I'm going to have a go at, and I've never made one like this before, but it's based on a fence post on a metal spike. This does the job of lifting it above the wildflower meadow, and the four sides of holes means the bees can choose which they want, whether it's north, south, east or west. Interesting experiment to see which they pick, if at all. So here we are at the workbench, materials laid out, one metal fencing spike, just something I happen to have lying around, and a bit of old fence post. This is the 4 by 4 inch scrap, and then basically got to chop off the end of that. I just used a hacksaw, do that however you like. Chop the end off, don't need that, so we've just got a straight metal spike with a pointy end. So that metal spike is going to go in the ground one end, and the blunt end is going to be inserted as far as possible into the wooden post. So we're now going to drill a hole into the base of the wooden post using a 10mm spade end drill bit. Now that happens to be the same size as the thickness of the metal. If yours is different, then use a different size drill bit. So roughly in the middle, nothing has to be exact, bees don't care. Now if you're strong enough to hold the wood yourself comfortably, great. If not, either clamp it or get somebody to help you. Don't take risks, because a spinning bit of fence post can hurt. So drill that out steadily, and we'll end up with a hole about 4 or 5 inches deep, something like that. So once it's drilled out, give it a good tap, knock all the bit sawdust out, and just give it a test run. The metal spike should just go in there firmly but comfortably. Now we're going to use the same 10mm spade end drill bit to drill out some holes. Now, if you read all the
the sort of literature, the recommendations for the length of tunnels that bees use should be sort of 6 inches or so. Obviously this post is only 4 inches, so it'll be interesting to see if they adopt it or not. Yeah, I mean, sometimes the literature can be a bit exact, and I would say try it. Try all sorts of things, try different sizes, different lengths, different angles, and work out for yourself what's the best way to do it. So we're drilling out holes. Now, you don't want holes connecting and joining together. So the best way is to use one side high up, another side a bit further down, another side even further down, and then the final fourth side lower, so that you've got different holes at different heights all around. Then get a different size drill bit. I think this was an 8mm drill bit, and a few smaller holes amongst the bigger ones, and that just allows a bit of variation for the bees to decide. So continue to make the smaller holes in amongst the larger holes, keeping the groups together as they were with the big ones, so some at the top, some in the middle, some at the bottom, and clean them out as best you can. The bees will take out some small amounts of wood, but if they really are clogged up with splinters, they won't use them. So knock out all the sawdust. Mind you don't pick up splinters yourself, and clean them up as far as possible. Just to help a bit, I've got a countersink bit that just goes into the ends and just sort of cleans them up, but you can use anything really. File, a larger drill bit, bit of sandpaper, but just clean it out as best possible, but don't get obsessed about it. So just the final little touch, a little bit of a roof made out of scrap wood, and this just overlaps the sides by about 1 inch or so and prevents water running directly down the front. Generally speaking, they manage quite fine. Nobody protects them in the wild, so they know what's best for them. If the holes seem right, they are right. So we just attach that to the roof with a couple of screws, and that's going to help us to knock it in as well. So finally to the garden, and this is sited on the edge of the wildlife meadow, the wilderness as I like to call it, or my meadow in the making. A lot of grass still on this, but there's an awful lot of yellow rattle now in it, so it's a good site between the vegetable boxes and the wildflower meadow. But because the grass will grow up to 18 inches, 2 feet, that's the reason it's put on a spike. So we insert the spike into the hole we made earlier. You could put the spike in first. I didn't, because I thought, well, if the spike's rammed hard up the wood and then you start banging it in, it might just split the wood because it's an old piece of fence post. So I decided to knock the two in together so that the spike goes up the wood and in the ground at the same time. So there we are, that's the final position. Thumbs up, must be good. So it's a bit of an experiment, as I said before. We've got holes on all sides. The bees can decide. It's off the ground, out of the grass. So let's see what happens. So here is another version. Basically this is a horizontal piece of post with an overlapping roof above it to protect it. Again, perhaps the tunnels are not long enough, but it'll be interesting to see if it works. Now the holes are larger from the right to the left, so it goes from like 16mm, 12mm, 10mm, 8mm. So this will see if there's any preference for hole size. And then It's just going to be hung up on a warm wall, and here it is. This is the outbuilding wall in full sun, protected from any splashing from the guttering by the roof. And here's another little choice. If the bees prefer rotten old fence posts, then they can have that end, and if they prefer clean, neat wood, they can have that end. It's a bit of an experiment to see if there's any preference. Once again, that has a backboard that can be screwed to the greenhouse, or any wood, any wall, and in a reasonably sunny position. This is an idea I had using elder stems. We've got some elder stems that have died off, and they're brittle, and they have like a soft pithy centre, so you can push that out with a screwdriver or a drill bit, and you can make them hollow quite simply. And what I'm doing is just hot gluing them to a back piece of wood and build them up so that they're secure, sitting on each other, and they're nice and hollow. The thing is with this though, that they'll be open-ended. Now the theories are that bees, solitary bees in particular, do not like open-ended nest holes, so this will see if that's true. If nobody uses it, then that's probably true. If they do use it, then it's not true. So it's got a little roof on, and there it is, all ready to go. Looks quite nice, I think. And there it is on the end of the greenhouse. But if the theory that they need an end is true, then here's another version with a side wall on as well as a roof and a back, and all of the tubes are pushed up firmly to that wall and glued into place. Nice variety of tube sizes, thicknesses and lengths, so one of them must suit, and they're firmly placed at the end or end, so it's a dark tunnel. If that one's populated rather than the other one, then it would probably suggest that bees do like a solid end to their tunnel. And that's what it looks like when it's ready to go. Protected from the weather, and quite a snug little corner for them. And here it is in situ on the end of the greenhouse. This is another one that I've done, which is really a replacement for the leaf cutter bee box, which was getting tired. So it's the same design, 4 blocks of fence post, drilled down one end, 12mm and 10mm holes. Leaf cutter bees are a little larger than most solitary bees, so bigger holes seem to be their preference. And that's it in place, ready for another year or two of activity, I hope. One last nest box style, round fence posts chopped up into 6-inch lengths, glued with hot glue onto a backboard and roof, and then drilled with a small diameter drill bit. And this is really for the smaller mason type bees if they want to use it. We'll see what happens. So let's have a recap and a review of the nest boxes that we've made. So there we go, that's the nest box for the solitary bees, and quite a good variety there. Lots of different materials, different hole sizes, so some of them should work, and I'm sure there'll be some colonisation this year. But if you have a go yourself, just remember, experiment. Try different sizes, different lengths of tubes, different materials, different positions, different heights, and you'll see which is best for you in your garden. So thanks for watching, and go make some bee boxes.